Jason's heartbreak and Monica's final wish, a turning point that could change Port Charles forever. The halls of the Quartermain mansion have never felt more empty than they do now, echoing with the silence left behind by Monica Quartermain's unexpected passing. While Port Charles mourned the loss of one of its most beloved figures, no one felt the weight of that loss more profoundly than Jason Morgan. Despite his composed appearance during Monica's funeral service, those who knew Jason best could see the cracks forming in his carefully constructed emotional armor, the silent devastation behind Jason's stoic facade. For decades, Jason Morgan had built a reputation as an unshakable force in Sonny Corinthus's organization, a man who could handle any crisis with cool precision and unwavering resolve. But Monica's death shattered something fundamental within him that no amount of mob training could have prepared him for. Standing in the chapel, surrounded by mourners paying their respects, Jason appeared every inch the controlled enforcer the world knew him to be. Yet beneath that stoic exterior, his heart was breaking in ways he had never experienced. The relationship between Jason and Monica had always been complicated, marked by years of tension over his choice to abandon his medical career and embrace a life of crime. Monica had never stopped loving the boy who had once been Jason Quartermain, the aspiring doctor who dreamed of saving lives rather than taking them. Even after the car accident that changed everything, even after he chose the name Jason Morgan and walked away from everything the Quartermain family represented, Monica's love for him remained constant and unwavering. In the quiet moments following the funeral, as family and friends dispersed and the reality of Monica's absence began to sink in, Jason found himself alone with grief he couldn't compartmentalize or suppress. This wasn't like the tactical losses he had experienced in his dangerous career. This was personal, permanent, and devastating in ways that left him questioning everything he thought he knew about himself and his priorities. Monica's final message, a letter that could change everything. Among Monica's personal effects, discovered in the days following her death, Jason found something that would shake him to his very core. A letter written in Monica's familiar handwriting, addressed specifically to him. The contents of that letter would prove to be more powerful than any bullet or bomb he had ever faced in his years with Sonny's organization. In her final written words to the son she had never stopped loving, Monica made one last desperate plea for Jason to reconsider the path his life had taken. She wrote with the wisdom of someone who had watched too many people she loved fall victim to the dangerous world of organized crime, and with the heart of a mother who wanted nothing more than to see her son safe and happy. Monica's letter spoke of family, not just the Quartermain legacy, but the broader concept of what family truly meant. Family is the most meaningful thing in this world, Monica had written, her words carrying the weight of a lifetime spent watching violence tear apart the people she cared about most. She urged Jason to consider what truly mattered, not the loyalty he owed to Sonny's organization, but the responsibility he had to build a life where love and safety could flourish. Monica reminded him that he had already lost too much to his dangerous lifestyle, and that there were people who needed him, not as an enforcer, but as a father, a son, and a man capable of choosing a different path. The letter revealed Monica's deepest fear, that she would die knowing Jason was still trapped in a world that could claim his life at any moment. She acknowledged that she had failed to convince him to leave the mob while she was alive, but she hoped that her final words might succeed where years of arguments and pleas had failed. Monica's message was clear. She wanted Jason to honor her memory not with flowers or memorials, but by choosing life over death, family over violence, and hope over the endless cycle of retribution that defined his current existence. The weight of regret and unfulfilled promises. Reading Monica's final letter, Jason was confronted with a painful truth. He had always known what Monica wanted for him, but he had never been willing to make the sacrifice she requested. During her lifetime, Jason had convinced himself that his loyalty to Sonny and his role in the organization were too important to abandon. He had rationalized his choices by focusing on the protection he provided, the stability his presence brought to Sonny's business, and the family he considered Sonny and his inner circle to be. But Monica's death changed everything. Suddenly, all of Jason's justifications felt hollow and meaningless in the face of her permanent absence. He realized that while he had been busy protecting Sonny's interests and maintaining order in Port Charles's criminal underworld, he had been failing to honor the wishes of the woman who had loved him most unconditionally. The regret was crushing, the knowledge that he could never again have the conversation with Monica that might have bridged the gap between her dreams for him and the reality of his choices. The timing of Monica's death, coming so soon after Sam McCall's unexpected passing, created a perfect storm of emotional reckoning for Jason. He was now Danny's only parent, facing the same fears and responsibilities that had once motivated Monica's pleas for him to leave his dangerous life behind. Looking at his son, Jason could finally understand Monica's perspective in a way that had eluded him for years. The cycle of violence that had claimed so many lives in his world suddenly seemed not like an inevitable reality, but like a choice, one that he had the power to break, a decision born from love and loss. In the weeks following Monica's funeral, Jason found himself transformed by grief and revelation. The man who had once approached every decision with cold calculation now found himself driven by emotion, memory, and a desperate desire to honor Monica's final wishes. For the first time in decades, Jason began to seriously consider what his life might look like outside of Sonny's organization. The decision wasn't easy. Jason's entire adult identity had been built around his role as Sonny's right-hand man, his reputation as an unstoppable enforcer, and his position as one of the most feared figures in Port Charles's criminal hierarchy. Walking away from that life would mean abandoning not just a career, but an entire sense of self that had sustained him through countless battles and crises. But Monica's letter had planted a seed that refused to be ignored. Every time Jason looked at Danny, every time he walked through the Quartermain mansion where Monica's presence still lingered, every time he remembered her voice pleading with him to choose safety over danger, the pull toward a different life grew stronger. Jason began to envision a future where he could be the kind of father to Danny that Monica had always hoped he would become: present, safe, and free from the constant threat of violence that shadowed every moment of his current existence. The transformation wasn't just about Danny, though the boy's need for a stable, living parent certainly weighed heavily on Jason's mind. It was also about honoring Monica's memory in the most meaningful way possible, by proving that her love and faith in him hadn't been misplaced, that the Jason Quartermain she had always seen beneath the Jason Morgan Fawade was still there, still capable of choosing hope over fear. The conversation that could change Port Charles forever. When Jason finally made his decision, he knew there was only one person he needed to talk to first: Sonny Corinthos, the man who had been more than a boss, who had been a brother, a friend, and a father figure during Jason's most formative years. The conversation ahead would be one of the most difficult of Jason's life, but also one of the most necessary. Sonny's office at the Metro Court had witnessed countless strategic discussions, territorial negotiations, and crisis management sessions over the years. But the conversation Jason was about to initiate would be unlike any of those previous meetings. This wasn't about business strategy or territorial disputes. This was about the end of an era, the dissolution of a partnership that had defined both men's lives for decades. Jason approached the meeting with the same methodical preparation he had always brought to his work, but with a completely different objective. Instead of planning how to eliminate a threat or expand Sonny's influence, he was preparing to explain why he needed to step away from everything they had built together. The weight of Monica's letter, carefully folded in his jacket pocket, served as both a reminder of his motivation and a source of strength. For the difficult conversation ahead, Sonny's response: Brotherhood tested by change. Sonny Corinthos had always prided himself on understanding Jason Morgan better than anyone else in the world. They had weathered storms together that would have destroyed weaker partnerships, survived betrayals and attacks that had claimed the lives of lesser men, and built an empire based on mutual trust and unshakable loyalty. But when Jason finally sat across from him and explained his decision to leave the organization, Sonny was forced to confront a reality he had never truly prepared for. The conversation began with Jason's typical directness, but tempered by an emotional vulnerability that Sonny had rarely witnessed in his longtime friend and partner. Jason spoke about Monica's death, about the letter she had left behind, and about the realization that he could no longer ignore her final wishes. He talked about Danny, about the kind of father he wanted to be, and about the growing certainty that he couldn't provide his son with the safety and stability he deserved while remaining in the mob. Sonny's initial response was complicated, a mixture of understanding, concern, and the deep sadness that comes with recognizing the end of something precious and irreplaceable. Throughout their partnership, Sonny had always respected Jason's judgment and decision-making abilities. If Jason believed that leaving the organization was necessary for his family's well-being, Sonny wasn't going to stand in his way. Their relationship had always been built on mutual respect rather than obligation, and that foundation held firm even in the face of this life-changing decision. But respect didn't eliminate Sonny's concerns about the practical implications of Jason's choice. As someone who had lived in the criminal world for decades, Sonny understood better than most that walking away from organized crime was never as simple as submitting a resignation letter. Jason's reputation, his knowledge of sensitive operations, and his long-standing role as Sonny's enforcer had created a web of relationships and obligations that couldn't be easily dissolved. The dangerous reality of leaving the mob. Both men understood the harsh truth that Jason's decision would bring significant risks. In their world, retirement wasn't typically an option. Too many people had too much invested in the current power structure for major changes to occur without consequences. Jason's departure would create a power vacuum that rival organizations would be eager to exploit, potentially destabilizing the careful balance that had kept Port Charles's criminal landscape relatively peaceful for years. More personally dangerous for Jason himself was the fact that his years as Sonny's enforcer had earned him countless enemies throughout the criminal underworld. People who had been held in check by fear of Jason's retaliation might see his departure from the organization as an opportunity for revenge. Without Sonny's protection and the deterrent effect of his position within the organization, Jason would become vulnerable in ways he hadn't experienced since his early days in the mob. The threat extended beyond Jason himself to everyone he cared about. Danny, the Quartermain family, and anyone else in Jason's inner circle could become targets for enemies seeking to hurt him indirectly. This reality weighed heavily on both Jason and Sonny as they discussed the logistics of how such a transition might work, and what steps would need to be taken to minimize the danger to innocent people caught in the crossfire. A brotherhood stronger than business. Despite the enormous complications and risks involved, Sonny's ultimate response to Jason's decision reflected the depth of their relationship and the genuine love he had for the man he considered a brother. While Sonny would miss Jason's presence in the organization and worry about both the strategic implications and Jason's personal safety, he recognized that true friendship sometimes meant supporting someone's choice to pursue happiness, even when that choice created significant personal cost. The conversation between them stretched over hours, covering not just the immediate logistics of Jason's departure, but also their shared history, their mutual respect, and their hopes for the future. Sonny spoke about his own health concerns, his growing desire to find some peace in his later years, and his understanding of why Monica's final letter had affected Jason so profoundly. Both men acknowledged that their world was changing, that the old ways of doing business were becoming increasingly unsustainable, and that perhaps Jason's decision represented a kind of evolution rather than a betrayal. By the end of their discussion, both Jason and Sonny had reached an understanding that transcended their professional relationship. Jason would leave the organization, but their personal bond would remain intact. Sonny would do everything in his power to facilitate a safe transition and provide ongoing protection for Jason's family, while Jason would offer whatever assistance he could during the changeover period, helping to train his replacement and ensure that crucial operations continued smoothly. The uncertain path ahead. As Jason prepared to embark on this new chapter of his life, the future remained full of uncertainties and potential dangers. Leaving the mob wouldn't eliminate the risks he faced. In some ways, it might increase them by removing the protective infrastructure that had kept him safe for so many years. But for the first time in decades, Jason felt like he was making a choice that aligned with his values, rather than simply reacting to external pressures and obligations. Monica's final letter had given Jason something he had never possessed during his years as an enforcer, a clear vision of what he wanted his life to become rather than simply what he wanted to avoid or survive. The path ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges both practical and emotional, but it was a path chosen from love rather than fear, hope rather than duty. The transformation of Jason Morgan from mob enforcer to private citizen would send shockwaves throughout Port Charles, affecting not just Sonny's organization, but the entire complex web of relationships that defined the city's power structure. Some would see Jason's decision as admirable, others as foolish, and still others as an opportunity to settle old scores. But regardless of how the world responded, Jason had finally found the courage to honor Monica's memory in the way she had always hoped, by choosing life over death, family over violence, and love over fear. In the end, Monica Quartermain's final letter had accomplished what years of arguments and pleas could not. It had reached past Jason's defenses, touched the part of him that remained Jason Quartermain beneath the Jason Morgan facade, and inspired him to believe that change was possible. Whether that change would bring the peace and safety Monica had dreamed of remained to be seen. But Jason's decision to try represented a victory for love, over fear that Monica would have treasured above any other tribute to her memory. Next, we will learn about the monumental decision that could completely reshape Joe Palmieri's future and solidify his place within one of Port Charles' most influential dynasties. A transformative moment at Monica's memorial service. The atmosphere at Monica Quartermain's memorial service created an unexpected catalyst for young Joe Palmieri's emotional awakening. Surrounded by generations of Quartermain family members, Joe witnessed something he had never experienced before: unconditional familial love and unwavering support during times of profound grief. The elegant gathering at the Quartermain mansion showcased decades of family photographs, cherished memories, and heartfelt tributes that painted a vivid picture of what true family loyalty represents. Monica's legacy of compassion, medical excellence, and fierce dedication to family values resonated deeply within Gio's conflicted heart. Watching Tracy Quartermain deliver an emotionally charged eulogy about her late sister-in-law's impact on their family's evolution, Joe found himself overwhelmed with unexpected pride. The young musician, who had spent months harboring resentment and anger toward his biological parents, suddenly experienced a profound shift in perspective. The powerful bond with Tracy Quartermain. Tracy's maternal instincts toward her great-grandson have been nothing short of extraordinary. Since discovering Gio's existence, during an intimate conversation following the memorial service, Joe surprised everyone by expressing genuine pride in being Tracy's descendant. This declaration marked the first time since learning his true parentage that Joe openly acknowledged his Quartermain bloodline with anything resembling enthusiasm or acceptance. Tracy's shrewd business acumen and protective nature have clearly made an impression on the talented young violinist. Her stories about the family's resilience through corporate takeovers, personal betrayals, and romantic scandals painted a picture of strength that appealed to Gio's own survival instincts. The legendary Quartermain matriarch recognized something special in her great-grandson, a combination of artistic sensitivity and steely determination that reminded her of Edward Quartermain's own complex personality, musical heritage, and grandfather Ned's influence. The revelation of Gio's musical DNA connection to Ned Quartermain created an unexpected bridge between grandfather and grandson. Their conversation about musical theory, composition techniques, and the emotional power of live performance revealed striking similarities in their artistic approaches. Ned's promise to replace the violin that Joe had destroyed in a moment of rage represents more than simple material compensation. It symbolizes an investment in their future relationship and Ned's commitment to nurturing his grandson's extraordinary talent. Ned's own journey from rebellious rock star to responsible family patriarch provides a compelling template for Gio's potential transformation. The parallels between their stories: both men struggled with family expectations while pursuing artistic dreams, create natural common ground for building trust and understanding. Ned's willingness to share intimate details about his own conflicts with Edward Quartermain demonstrates his genuine desire to prevent Joe from making similar mistakes. Gradual acceptance despite parental tensions. Brooklyn's cautious optimism about her son's incremental progress reflects the delicate nature of their current relationship dynamic. While Joe continues maintaining emotional distance from both Brooklyn and Dante Falconeri, his willingness to engage with other Quartermain family members suggests a strategic approach to rebuilding fractured connections. His selective acceptance pattern, embracing Tracy and Ned while rejecting his parents, indicates sophisticated emotional intelligence rather than simple stubbornness. The young man's ability to compartmentalize his feelings demonstrates remarkable maturity. For someone processing such devastating revelations about his origins, his continued relationship with Sonny Corinthos and acceptance of Michael Corinthos proves that Joe can separate individual merit from family affiliations when circumstances warrant such distinctions. This selective approach to relationship building suggests he's evaluating each family member based on their personal actions rather than blanket rejection. Michael Corinthos as a positive role model. Michael's own experience with name changes and family conflicts provides valuable insight into Gio's current struggle. The parallel between Michael's temporary adoption of the Quartermain name during his estrangement from Sonny offers a potential roadmap for Gio's decision-making process. Michael's eventual return to the Corinthos name after resolving his father-related anger demonstrates that identity choices can evolve alongside personal growth and forgiveness. Gio's comfortable relationship with Michael suggests he respects individuals who have navigated similar family complexity with grace and integrity. Michael's balanced perspective on both the Quartermaine and Corinthos legacies provides Gio with a neutral advisor who understands the weight of family name decisions without personal agenda or emotional manipulation. Drew Cain's destructive influence on the decision. The widespread family animosity toward Drew Cain has become a significant factor in Gio's contemplated name change. Drew's affair with Willow Tate and subsequent destruction of Michael's marriage created shockwaves throughout both the Quartermaine and Corinthos families. Gio's awareness of these betrayals, combined with additional information about Drew's manipulation of the Robinson family, has solidified his negative opinion of the disgraced congressman. Trina Robinson's first-hand account of Drew's role in her parents' divorce and his blackmail tactics against Portia Robinson provided Gio with concrete evidence of Drew's corrupt character. The comparison between Drew Cain and Larry Ashton, both men who used the Quartermaine name for personal gain while bringing shame to the family, creates a powerful motivation for Gio to reclaim family honor through his own name adoption. The strategic decision to embrace Quartermaine legacy. Gio's potential decision to legally adopt the Quartermaine surname represents multiple layers of meaning beyond simple family acceptance. By taking the name that Drew was forced to abandon, Gio would be making a bold statement about redemption, honor, and the power of earned respect over inherited privilege. This choice would demonstrate his commitment to upholding the positive aspects of Quartermaine tradition, while rejecting the manipulative tendencies that have occasionally tainted the family reputation. The symbolic weight of this decision extends beyond personal identity to encompass Gio's vision for his future role within Port Charles society. As a Quartermaine, he would inherit not just a name, but also expectations for community leadership, philanthropic responsibility, and artistic excellence that could provide direction for his previously uncertain future path.